Glad you're watching The Perspective today. As you probably know, I'm Mike Sherbino, but I want to welcome you back as we continue with our Summer Encore series. And this week is no exception. Got some great friends, people that are coming to share their strengths, their experiences of a God who has impacted them in the way that they do life. And He wants to meet you, that same God, today as well. You know, all week, we're sharing a verse of scripture, and the promise for this week is found in Hebrews 4, verse 16. It says this: let's with confidence draw near to God's throne of grace to receive grace and mercy to help us in our time of need. Isn't that encouraging to know that God doesn't want us to feel that we've been left alone? He wants you to know that He is there with you, and He'll not fail you or forsake you. As you enjoy the program today, be reminded of the truth that if God is for us, who can be against us? We've got a dear friend,
yes,
Rachel
and we're
Joy,
talking about
is with
Mental
us.
Health Month. You know, this is really important.
And we got two special guests with her. We have Verkedric Vaughns and we have Kaylin Randhawa, and they are with us today. We saw the clips about them. Yeah, it was a great catch that he made.
I know.
And then the basketball just slam dunk. Whoa.
They make it look so easy.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, let's talk to them, okay?
Yes, okay.
Hey, everybody, we're glad you're with us. Thank you for being a part of the program. Just tell everybody where you're calling in from today.
Right.
I'm in Florida.
All right, we'll forgive you.
I'm in Texas.
In Texas, okay. And in Texas, everything is bigger and better, right?
Yeah, I'm from California.
Okay.
See, all the sunny places.
Yeah. So, okay, I don't know where to go, but Rachel, let's start with you. Our viewers have been watching important messages about mental health. Many of them you have done. They've been fantastic about not burying our heads in the sand, avoiding or ignoring it. Tell me about your work with these two amazing professional athletes.
You know, I've been to over 60 colleges, many of them multiple times. And these two current and former collegiate athletes stood out amongst a crowd. And, you know, I love everybody that I come in contact with. You know, there's large crowds I come into contact with, but there is somebody that comes up afterwards or sends me a message before. In Kaylin's case, that said, hey, I'm very passionate about mental health. I've had my own battles. Let's talk. And then when I actually met her and embraced her, it was everything. And with I call him Verkedric at Baylor, you know, we also created this relationship afterwards and have been friends ever since. And so both of them are very outspoken. They are very passionate. They're such a blessing because they are outspoken about their own struggles, about what they've been through, about where they want to go. And that outspokenness is the very thing this month that we are celebrating. When you say, I've been there, and it helps other people understand I'm not defective, I'm not broken, and I'm not weak. And oh my gosh, somebody else has been through what I'm struggling with right now. That's everything. Yeah.
So let me jump in. Kaylin and Verkedric. Let's start with Kaylin. What's been the most important thing you've learned to deal with better on your mental health?
Yeah, I mean, I think I heard him say burying your head in the sand, and not doing that has been the most important thing I've learned. I'm not someone who usually asks for help, and asking for help has always been something really difficult to do. So I would say just doing the opposite, because when you don't, it really puts you in these tough and difficult positions where you feel like ask anyone. And then ever since I kind of realized, wait, like my family and my friends, they actually want the best for me and they will help me. That's really changed my life for the better. So I would say asking for help has been a huge jump for me.
And it's amazing how that is such an important first step and how difficult it can be to take that first step. And so hats off for you taking that. That's so important for others to hear this. How about you, Verkedric?
For me, you know, being a football player, you know, we have the tendency of, you know, to hold the world on our shoulders and, you know, the status quo of, you know, we can figure it out. And for me, just reaching out to that mental health specialist that was provided at Baylor, you know, it's not cool, but I made it cool. I didn't care, you know, dealing with the struggles that I went through. Um, I was like, hey, I need help. Going to sleep at night, staying up till 3 a.m. just thinking about the day before or what I did wrong. Because you always strive to be perfect, and you know, I found that comfortability into going and talk to someone, a mental health specialist that was at Baylor.
That's really
Yeah.
intriguing to hear that, Verkedric, just taking that initiative. But let me flip it over to Rachel for a second, because you speak about things being on the surface. And why is it so important to get to the nitty gritty of what our struggles are and actually talk about things like these two
Right.
colleagues are saying?
Yeah. Here's the thing. People aren't drawn to your perfections. They're drawn to your imperfections. And here we are, busy people all around the world, trying to put on the airs on social media and the airs at work and the airs around. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. Right. And in reality, that mask, not your COVID mask, but that mask that you wear for the world will eat you alive. And so just like Kaylin said, just like Verkedric said, talking to somebody, asking for help, it's so important. Here's the other thing I've recognized. Connection is the balm of joy, right? We learned that during the pandemic. We need each other. We need hugs. We need attagirls, attaboys. We need I've been there. We need somebody to hold space for us. We need somebody just to walk with us to therapy. And even what V said about, maybe it wasn't cool when he started. That's one of our big things that I'm changing the narrative through these athletes, through so many people that we touch, and using their voices to make it cool to ask for help, to make it cool to say I've struggled, to make it cool to say I've been there and I can help you, and let me use my pain for purpose.
Yeah, exactly. And Kaylin and Verkedric, I'd like to ask you about the struggles you go through in college, managing your different sports and schoolwork and friends and family. Each of you give us some tips. And on the flip side, tell us what you struggle with. This time, I want to start with Verkedric.
Okay. For me, the time management thing, it was very difficult coming in at 17, 18 years old, being on your own for the first time. And I can say that, they have usually at D1, they have your day matched up and scheduled out for you, but it can get very tiring and fatigued. And so doing it over time, waking up at 5 a.m. for workouts and then going straight to class, it's pretty difficult because all you want to do is go sleep. And so you got to really find your passion and your why on why you're doing this. Why are you going to college? Why are you playing football? Why are you getting your education? Because that's going to be the thing that drive you in the long run. And for me, with my struggles, as I said in the intro, yes, I was 18 years old. I remember I was 18 years old. It's like 3 days after my birthday. My defensive coordinator told me that I wasn't fast enough and I was never going to play for him. I was like, okay. But I didn't let that tear me down. I told my family back home with some friends what he said, and they was like, that's okay. I was coming off a meniscus injury my senior year, and I want to say by the fall of September, October, I was beating the guys by 1.5 yards in 15-yard sprint. So I got healed and I pressed through. And the next year I was starting. I started three of the next year.
That's great.
I didn't let that get me down.
That's great.
That's a lot of pressure.
Listen, we're going to take a short pause, but when we come back, we'll have Kaylin share from her experience of how she's been juggled, or how she juggled school, family, friends, work, and all of that. Stay with us, everyone. We're going to be right back.
The lie that we tell ourselves is we're not qualified enough, we're not smart enough, we're not ready enough, we're not educated enough, we're not any of the things. Enough. Listen to me, you are enough.
All right, we're talking today with Rachel, Kaylin, and Verkedric. And I was wanting to turn to Kaylin now and ask her, how did you manage school, work, family, friends, all of that?
Well, I didn't. That's why I'm here. It was hard. And just like Verkedric said, time management was the biggest struggle for me. I don't think there's anything that really prepares you being a 17-year-old, choosing the college you're going to go to and what you're really in for as a student athlete. And especially at the Division I level, I don't think I was prepared for it. And that was hard. Just balancing school and basketball was tough. And basketball is like a sport that kind of double dips into the fall and the spring. So
Mm.
I love it because it's like we're playing all the time, but it's also really tough because you kind
You're
of think,
playing all the time.
yeah, you're playing all the time. And I'm like, okay, when can I just be a regular student? Like it's both semesters that you're having to do that balance. So that's always been tough. And just having some friendship relationships, those, sometimes when those end, that's not as easy to balance either, like on amidst like everything that you're going through. And I too also went and saw a counselor at Pacific when I was there and at Utah State when I was there. So yeah, it was something that was difficult to do because when your athletic trainer tells you, "Hey, maybe you should," you're kind of like, "Well, I'm fine. I don't need that." You don't think you actually do until you're like, "Okay." You go the first time and you're like, "That was actually really nice to be able to tell
Hey,
everything that's on my mind, out to
Mhm.
them." So
Kaylin, can
that
I
was,
ask you, jump in and ask you a question? As you're
of
talking
course.
about this, my question is, when did your eyes kind of open up and saying, hey, I'm not coping too well with all this pressure? Because I was kind of getting overwhelmed just listening to all that you were trying to juggle. So when did the
Yeah.
light go? When did the light go on? What were some warning signs that our viewers need to hear?
So I think I didn't even realize it. I think thank you to my athletic trainer because she
Mm.
was the one who I kind of would like, complain about, just let everything out to her. And she was the one who was like, maybe you should see someone. And even then, like I said, I was like, I don't think I need to. Like, I'm in a position, like everything, it's hard for everyone. Then after that, I saw her one time. I didn't go back. It was the spring semester. So my fall semester, I saw her the first time. My spring semester, when I realized I was kind of in that same loop again, I was like, maybe I'm not doing the best right now with all of this, and I should see someone. Um, and honestly, it's been a journey. Like all these tips I'm about to say for people watching and student athletes to come, they're hard. They're not easy. Like it's still a work in progress. Like one tip I would say is like developing a morning routine.
Mm.
Uh, and for me, it's still sometimes difficult to do because it takes so much discipline, like morning routine, like waking up at this time. And I'm trying to incorporate like my religion more. So I try to like read the book and write about it. So that's been better for me, but it's also really hard. So morning routine, like time management, those are really, really big ones. And like one quote that I actually got from my one of my classes this semester was, remember that someone else's successes are not the absence of your own.
Mm.
And that one is just like, I try and tell myself that all the time because when you're in a position like I was doing my credential program this semester, I was seeing all my, colleagues turning their assignments in like way before it's due. And I'm like, it's not due for another week. Like I started this assignment and I'm
Yeah.
just like, so I'm over here like, okay, someone else's successes are
Cool.
not
That's a
of my own.
great quote.
Yeah, that's so
Bless.
good.
So good.
Well,
So
let's
good.
jump over to Rachel for a second, because as I'm listening to what Kate has been sharing, Rachel, how many athletes are you dealing with that are coping with mental health challenges? And what kind of things are they coping with?
So first of all, there's this old, I'd say it's out of date, where it says 1 in 5 people struggle with mental health. I think my friends at Same Here Global, his name's Eric. He says, actually that statement is a little bit stigmatizing itself. Like, hey, you're the 1 in 5. Actually, in reality, probably 5 out of 5 of us have gone through something in our life, whether it's pronounced, whether it's long term, whether it's clinical, whether it's a short period, or whether we've been affected right up and close by somebody else's mental health. So the reality is, if we get real that all of us struggle at one time, that's helpful. Something that happened with Kaylin that I want to say that is so huge, she had an ally and an advocate in her life. And everybody, her athletic trainer, everybody needs one of those. And that's what we teach at I'm Changing the Narrative, is to be an ally and to be an advocate and to say, I've got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Can I listen to you? Can I walk with you to therapy? Can I make the appointment with you? Can I follow up with you? We teach it. I'm Changing the Narrative. I've taught it on your show. We're no longer in a place where you can say, reach out for help. We've got to start teaching people to be joy starters and to be the kind of people that notice and reach in for people and say, you don't seem all right. Let me check on you. Let me bring you pizza. Let me help you. And that's what we do at I'm Changing the Narrative.
Cool.
You know, I think you're so right about that, Rachel. And the fact that people, you know, have a mentor, have someone there. And I was just thinking about the fact that, you know, if you're going for a basic degree and you're going to classes and you're juggling life as a whole, that alone is overwhelming for so many students starting. Never mind the fact if you are going to school and you're also an athlete who is having to add that to your schedule, there's only so many hours in the day. And so we were talking about that. Let's talk about the athletes who didn't make it to your levels. What advice to them and other athletes and your school chums would you give? Kaylin, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think the advice still remains the same. I think for athletes that are at different levels, you know, that's still a small percentage of people coming out of high school that are being asked to perform at a high level and also balance, you know, their classes. So it's the same, it's time management. And one thing I would say is, like, with social media nowadays, make sure that you're not like letting the negative like be in your head. Sometimes you do need to like manage your screen time or just unfollow things that are not freaking good for you. Because
Right.
Very
there's a lot.
cool.
There's a lot on
Hey,
Verkedric-
Verkedric, what would you say to people who didn't quite make the grade? Like someone like me, I'm still thinking of pursuing the professional football career. I don't know, maybe there's no hope, but what would you say?
I can say this, you know, don't take it negatively if you didn't get to the collegiate level, because you actually have a step forward in life. Because a lot of athletes tend to play sports all their life, and then when they get into the real world and transition, it's very tough. And so not playing sports and not accomplishing it is not so much a bad thing. You just get a head start in life. And so you can turn it into a positive that way, because I can tell you, I've had tons of teammates that their first job when they was 27 and 28. And you're almost 30. So if you didn't go to college or if you even went to college, it's like you're very strong because you didn't have sports pushing you. We have sports motivating us to, you know, go forward to get our education. The people who don't do that, I commend them, because what drive do you have? What do you have pushing you? And that's tough. And I commend them for that. So, I mean, you can just look at it from both sides.
Very
Well,
cool.
listen, guys, we're out of time. This has been wonderful. It's so fun to always be with you, Rachel, and so nice to meet you, Kaylin and Verkedric. We wish you all the best. Thank you so much for joining us
But
today.
hold on, you know what? I just got to slip in one more question.
Oh,
okay,
well,
Julie, forgive me, and I'll take
Go
this out of
for
my
it.
teaching time. Rachel, maybe you could just speak out of your own experience and dealing with mental health issues. How has your faith in Jesus formed how you think? I'm just asking you. Yeah.
It's you know, we're inclusive, you know, at I'm Changing the Narrative, but I'll tell you, me personally, it's like having a best friend, an Abba Father, a Papa God, a constant companion, knowing that, and even in the night, and a trigger warning, even the night where I had heard a voice, not voices, telling me to take my own life, I do believe that there was somebody there, you know, named Jesus, that was fighting for me, right? Fighting for me to survive, because he knew that I would go and tell the world about my mental health struggles. And I just have to say this, and as we finish here, it's my life's work, Happy Tears. And it's such an extension and a legacy to see these two athletes on this show with you guys and speaking their truth and giving. And it's such a blessing to give them this platform to be able to shine and watch them use their pain for purpose and help other people. And that is just everything to me. It's better than $1 million paycheck in the bank account.
That's awesome.
That's totally cool. Well, Verkedric and Kaylin and Rachel, thank you.
Yeah.
Man, you've just enriched my life. I'm going to think twice about pursuing the pro football career, but other than that, thank you for speaking into our lives
Yes,
today.
thanks so much, guys. I really appreciated them sharing from their hearts, because they obviously represent many athletes and many people that are going into colleges, universities, and are trying to juggle these things. And like I mentioned, you have students that are extremely intelligent, they're going and they're pursuing their careers, and something that we constantly forget is that it doesn't matter how intelligent you are, the mental pressures can be so strong if
So
you don't
strong.
have the support around you to deal with just the time management that they're talking about and the stress of all the things they have to get done and just getting enough rest, juggling all of that and being away from home. It can be so overwhelming. It doesn't matter how intelligent you are. We need each other and we need to make sure that they're in a safe environment. So it doesn't matter what you're doing in life. And in their case, being athletes at school, they need that as well.
I think one of the things as you're sharing those things, it's easy to be cynical.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not that person like Verkedric or Kaylin, you
Yeah.
say, my goodness, they got it made.
Right.
They get to go to school and they get to play games.
Yeah.
You
think, it's so easy.
But suddenly there's all the social pressure.
Right.
They're there on the field or in the gym, and all the fans are cheering. And if they screw up or mess up, there's all that pressure, and we bring it on. And I hope that through this mental health month, that the awareness level will help each of us realize that what I'm dealing with might be different than you,
Right.
but it's still the reality that I'm living with.
It still is.
And
so important.
in a moment, I'm going to continue my teaching. It's called The Journey of a Lifetime from the book of James. And how do we go through trials? That's what I'm going to be talking about today, because those things can just knock us down, whether it's the word that somebody said to us or whether it's just the pressure of what we feel we have to do to look successful.
Right.
Hey, so stay with us, folks. We're going to be right back in just a moment. Hey, I want to ask you a question today. You ready for it? Are you a boundary buster or a bench warmer? We've been listening to some professional athletes. Nobody wants to sit on the bench. But to push the boundaries, to bust through the boundaries, that can be very intimidating as well. I'm not sure what your boundary is. Maybe it's simply because you've been physically sick. Perhaps it's getting up and walking around the block or doing it 2 or 3 times. Or perhaps you're going to break through one of the boundaries by the way you're going to deal with a situation that you have been avoiding. Maybe it is pursuing a new career and you're waffling on the big decision, but you're going to make that decision. Now, that's what I mean by being a boundary buster. It is so easy to be stuck, though, to be stuck in the rut. And none of us want to be there. The battle is in our mind. The battle is in your mind. But we need to be careful for the things that intimidate us, that come down upon us. That's why I love the book of James. James is going to talk to us today out of chapter 1, and he's going to unpack why trials can be sometimes overwhelming, but how we can deal with it so that we're not overwhelmed, so that we don't go under the water. Who is this guy, James, anyways? Well, I mentioned yesterday, he's the half-brother of Jesus. Eventually, he became the leader of the Jerusalem church. And the letter that he wrote is probably written about AD 40 to 45. And what I love about James, he's all about how you live out your faith, not just being a hearer of God's word, but a doer. Kind of like some people would say, like a Sunday morning only Christian. James says, that's not the way it's supposed to be. And he challenges you and I, if you're a follower of Jesus, to live life differently. There needs to be something within us that people say, oh, wow, I want that. That's attractive. I need the strength that you have. And then we realize, as we share with them, the strength's not coming from me, it's Christ living through me in my life. What James is going to tell us as we head out the door in our walk with Jesus is that life is not always going to be on smooth pavement. This road trip of a lifetime, the journey that we're on, you know what it's like to be on a gravel road. I was on a road the other day and there were so many potholes, I had to slow right down just to swerve. And every once in a while, bang, I would hit one. How do you navigate those potholes? How do you navigate the problems? I want to remind you of a truth, and it's this, that when you go to the bottom of life, you'll find that God is there as well. He's waiting for you to cry out, to call out to him. And so James says the darndest thing. In verse 2, he says, count it all joy, brothers, when you meet trials of various kind. For you know, the testing of your faith produces steadfastness, and let steadfastness or patience have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. You know, much of modern philosophy teaches us to remain calm in the midst of trials, but only Christianity teaches us to be joyful. Why is that? Because I'm not doing it in my strength. I have the promise that God is with me, that He's going through the trial with me. And trials are there. We face them in different kinds, but God says, I'm more than enough. I will be your strength. I will be your present help in time of trouble. What are some of those trials? Well, it can be sickness. It can be disappointments. It can be a tragedy. And Peter, one of the other disciples, wrote this. He said, don't think it's strange concerning the fiery trial, which is to try you, as though some strange thing is happening to you. No, we're all going to go through trials, because a faith that is not tested is not worth much. But the promise is this. We find it in Psalm 50, verse 12, where the psalm writer says, call upon me in the day of trouble. This is God speaking. Call upon me in the day of trouble, and I'll deliver you, and you will honor me. And the promise that we have to take with us today is the reason we can count it all joy when we face these difficult times is God says, I've promised to be with you, and you can call out to me for help, because I'll be there to be your strength, your present help in time of trouble. That's His promise for you and me today. One of the good things about summertime is that it helps us to find a healthy rhythm. You find yourself going too hard, too fast, maybe in too many directions, trying to please people. Ken Shigematsu's book is going to help you. It's called The Survival Guide for the Soul. Ken's a pastor in Vancouver, British Columbia, and he has written extensively on subjects related to soul care. I want to encourage you to write to us today at The Perspective and get your free copy. The first 20 people that write in this week, we're going to send you a free copy of Ken's book. Would you also consider being a partner here at The Perspective? We need your help as we share God's word across the country, because people are wondering not just how do we care for our soul, but how do we make sure that our soul is right with God? And that's why we have this little book we're giving away all summer, and it's called Just Start. It helps you to get going in your relationship with God. If you've never started your relationship with God today, can I invite you to take that step of faith to say right now a simple prayer with me? Lord Jesus, I'm trusting you as my Savior. I believe you died for me, that you rose from the grave, you defeated the power of sin, and you will be my leader and Lord. And you know, if you're praying that prayer right now, God is hearing your prayer. But write to me at theperspective.tv so I can send you this little book and encourage you in the decision you have made.